Hey guys, welcome back to the Gamers Vault, and as you know, I'm your host James. I was supposed to do the PlayStation 3 repair video. I know you guys are definitely understanding that the last one I left you guys with the understanding that I was going to do that video, right? I contacted the manufacturer because I was waiting for the part to come. It was taking too long and I wanted to get a video out. And he stated that it didn't have the part for my specific PlayStation 3 console. Each part is unique to each one, and you had to get a specific one in order for it to work, and I'll explain that later on. He didn't have it, so I had to reorder the part somewhere else, and I did do that. In about a week or so, it'll be coming here, so that way you guys can actually enjoy that video. But I didn't want to leave you guys with nothing. So, with the release of Resident Evil 7 coming out next week, and of course the movie coming out at the end, or at least the final chapter of the movie coming out at the end of this month on January 27th, I wanted to go over one of my favorite games and a game review on the Gamers Vault. So today, on the Gamers Vault, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1. This is my long box copy. I bought it for around $30 and it was on eBay at the time, and honestly it's a great deal that I got it for at that time, because if you look at it now, it goes for like $60 to $80 depending on the quality of the game, and I wanted to show you guys what it looks like. So as you can see, you got the manual here. It comes with the manual. It has the CD. Actually, the CD is not in bad shape, and of course the PlayStation versions are black. It's not so bad. See? Not even scratched. And the way the game came, it always has this cotton-like thing, so that way it doesn't crush the CD. And of course, Sony or PlayStation had it like this for a while with long box editions, and then they went to the smaller sized plastic garbage that we have today. But what I wanted to talk about really hardcore was just the review on this game and how it was made, and do a little bit of an insight on just the game mechanics of it all. Because you got to remember, it's celebrating its 20th anniversary. Resident Evil was released in 1996 to us in the United States. Of course, the Japanese got it first. So let's go ahead and deep dive into Resident Evil for PlayStation. For those of you guys who do not know, Resident Evil storyline pretty much takes place in July of 1998, as per the video you're seeing now. It pretty much stars members, Special Taxes and Rescue Service. They are a special, kind of think of them as SWAT for the police department. And what happened was they lost contact with one of their squad members when they were sent in to investigate specific murders in a mountainside retreat or mansion. They get sent out there with very little stuff and little know-how what happened, but just to investigate where their friends left. They see smoke in the horizons, and of course they go to investigate. But turn to find out, not everything is what it seems. Anyway, that's the story premise. I'm not going to ruin everything for you, but I will show you the video while I tell you some good facts. Biohazard, as it was named in Japan, began development in 1993, and it took about 3 years to develop. The idea for Resident Evil, or Biohazard, was formed basis on the Sweet Home game for the Famicom Disk System, or Famicom System, excuse me. As you know, the poor live-action scenarios were shot in English with Japanese subtitles. But no one knows Japanese voices were shot for the actual video. But, and here's the kicker of it all. When they decided to release the game, they find the Japanese voice actors inadequate and decided to leave it out of the game. I wish they would have thought of that when they listened to the Americans. Anyway, Shinji Mikami thought the voices for the Japanese were to be left out, and of course, sir, they were. The development for the game was part of the it was called the Resident Evil team. Later on, became Capcom Production Studio 4. Was the ones who helped build the game. The game has 4 endings. The best being that Chris and Jill escaped the mansion alongside a third STARS member, either Rebecca or Barry, depending on the character that you went after defeating the final boss, which is called the Tyrant. The second best ending is that if Chris or Jill escapes with either Barry or Rebecca. after defeating the tyrant and destroying the mansion. The second worst ending, Jill and Chris escaped, and they're the only survivors. They left everyone there, and they left the mansion intact, and tyrants set loose on the forest. And of course, the really, really worst ending is if the player is the only lone survivor, whether you're Chris or Jill. If you're the survivor and you didn't blow up the mansion, but you escaped, you set tyrant on to everyone else. As you can see, the concept for this game was just stunning. I mean, if you look at the live action for the time, and of course for PlayStation graphics, when we were all used to 16 and 8 and of course 32, it was just phenomenal for the time. Anyway, let's go on to the next. Biohazard, as I mentioned before, was the name of the Japanese release of the game. The name itself had to be changed for the American and European markets. Chris Kramer, Director of Communications for Capcom, stated that it would be impossible to trademark Biohazard in the United States, since in 1992 at the time, Biohazard Battle, which was a game that came out at that time, and of course a New York band named Biohazard were already using the name. So Capcom decided to run a company-wide contest and finally settled on Resident Evil. Since the game took place in a spooky mansion, Kramer thought the name to be corny, but decided to love it anyway. The game itself went under extreme video cuts from its original release. Mangled corpses and shooting dogs in the head were not really accepted at the time because of the newly formed Entertainment Software Rating Board, or the ESRB for short. But it received a M rating, which is the first at its time for 1996. As you know, the game graphics were just phenomenal for this time. They based it on Sweet Home for the Famicom system, and it was a big hit back at that point, so they wanted to grow and expand upon that, and of course they asked the directors and stuff to come up with a new game, and Resident Evil was formed. Taking the puzzle situations and of course the locking mechanisms were not so bad, but the voice acting still to this day bothers a lot of people and was kind of corny. The game had several releases later on. It was originally thought to sell 200,000 copies, but went on to sell millions at the point. Of course, the game was released in several versions. Later on, they decided to do the director's cut of the version of the game. And of course, they did a director's cut DualShock version. With the director's cut, they left the blood and gore in for the intro, so you guys can see it in all of its splendor and glory, which you can also find on eBay later on. Once the game was released, and of course the millions were sold, they decided to attempt to port the game over to another console. And they've done this with several ones, like I mentioned before, with the Sega Saturn and of course PC version. And little people know this, but a port was attempted on the Game Boy Color. It was developed by a small software house called HotGen and was supposed to be released in 1999. Capcom decided to cancel this project, citing that the port was in poor quality due to the Game Boy's limited hardware version of the game. It contained almost everything exact in the game. The video sequences were cut in and out, you had to read it, but it was still a decent port. In January 2012, an individual claimed to have the actual cartridge, but he wasn't going to release it for free. He actually wanted $2,000. Of course, the goal was met and the game was released. You can buy the copy of the port on different websites. One of them is from Etsy, like I mentioned before, for the Raspberry Pi, and of course you can buy it on eBay, among other unfinished Resident Evil titles, aka Resident Evil 2 for the Game Boy Advance. And when I say Resident Evil 2 for Game Boy Advance, I mean just the beginning, and of course Resident Evil 1.5, and you don't have to buy that a team actually has that released for any Resident Evil fan to play. So there you go, guys. You can just find it online. Deadly Silence for Resident Evil was released as well, and contained classic mode and of course rebirth mode in there, which uses touch support for the first time ever for Resident Evil series. And of course, a lot of the gameplay did change, which is actually pretty cool for the time. The graphics actually was really well, and of course the cutscenes were kept in due to the hardware of the game. Console, excuse me. So let's go into some facts and numbers and take a look at that for a minute. So guys, as I stated, they decided to sell the game, and they thought the game was going to be 200,000 copies sold. But it actually didn't turn out to be that way. This one sold over 2.75 million copies when it first came out, combined. And then of course later on, I'm just pulling up my copies, Resident Evil Director's Cut, or I should say DualShock, the Director's Cut version of this game, which is a smaller copy of the game, sold for 1.13 million, and the game itself, or at least this copy here, sold for 1.2 million. And the Saturn came out last. They got it for sold for 148,000, so it did sell. The reason why the game, this one is actually unique, not only does it have the DualShock, of course the game comes with it and the manual, but at the time of them making the DualShock as a release for the game, they wanted to hold us over. And the reason why they wanted to hold us over is because of Resident Evil 1.5. And when I say 1.5, it was set to be Resident Evil 2. It was almost done. It was at 90% complete until the developers of the game decided that it wasn't fitting the style of Resident Evil, and they decided to stop production. So instead of us getting the Resident Evil 2, they re-released it here as a not a DualShock, but the Resident Evil Director's Cut. So you can see the uncut version of the game, which is the ESRB was a little more lenient with the game later on. When they finally decided to come out with Resident Evil 2, it was great. They came out with the DualShock version, which is the one I'm holding in my hand right now. And the reason why this is important is because this one came with a demo to Resident Evil 2. So, as I stated before, Resident Evil 1.5 did come out later on, and it didn't come out by Capcom's means. A small team found the person that had a 40% copy of the game. Not the 90% copy, unfortunately, but the 40% copy of the game. And they decided to release it to all Resident Evil fans. And you can find that on my description below, or you can Google it online. Somebody else found this version of the game, and I'm going to bring it over now. As I stated, I bought this on Etsy. This is Resident Evil. I'm going to pull out my copy. And it's I'm sorry I'm looking at the screen, but I wanted to make sure you guys get a good copy of it. It's a fan-made Resident Evil game. See, it has a little back on it. They did a really good job. It is a homebrew. I'm going to open it up so you guys can take a look at it. And it comes in like this. Even though it came in a gray card, you can only play this on the Game Boy Color or higher. The game itself is actually not a bad game. It loops a lot. The shooting is funny. The zombies, when they die, they just drop to their knees. They don't die all the way. The game, again, was 90% complete. It does play most of the entire game up into the end point. And when it gets to that end point, I think in the elevator or so, it just stops. And the game just ends. Because Capcom pulled the plug, so there was no need to finish the ending of the game. Someone got it, released it, put it on a cart, and I got mine. I got mine for $40. I'm going to be honest with you, I paid a lot for it. But it came with a nice case, a cover for it to put in my collection and everything else. Again, you could buy the game on Etsy. I found a copy of the game, and I'm looking at it right now for $19.96 on Etsy.com. And if you decide that you want to go ahead and try it for yourself, you can. It actually is a good, if you're a Resident Evil collector, it is a must in your collection. There is another version of the game I want to be able to talk to you about. Not version, a correction. There is something else I wanted to tell you. They did make a Game Boy Advance copy of the game, like I mentioned before. I'm going to see, and during the video, which I normally don't do because I like to make sure I get everything up, I'm going to try to find it for you. I think it's Resident Evil 2 Game Boy Advance. Yes, it's Resident Evil 2 in Game Boy Advance, and the game goes for the same price as the other one. This one is unique. It's a tech demo, and when I say tech demo, they really mean tech demo. And what I mean by that is, it only gives you the beginning of the game. Once you arrive at the actual police station, the game ends because it was a demo to be shown to Capcom. So Capcom tried to release it for Resident Evil 2. Again, they denied the release. They gave it to the Gamecom. And we all know how that came out. Either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed my video today. I'm so happy to go ahead and do this for you. I'm so excited about Resident Evil 7. And of course, the movie coming out in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully I get the parts soon, so that way you guys can you can see the next video of the PlayStation. Hopefully, if not, I'll do a similar video to a review or another repair kind of video, depending on what I can get in. Again, if you have any suggestions or comments or anything like that, leave them down below. Hit that subscribe button, like or thumbs up this video. Also, click on that little bell like I always say to every of my videos, so that way you know when the next episode of the Gamers World comes out. Again, guys, thank you so much for looking at my videos, and Happy New Year.